right, we're back for our college basketball best bets here on Tuesday, January 14th. And, we got 5 more best bets for today. But real quick, before we get into the video, we got to address yesterday. I'm not going to run from it. We're not going to hide from it. It is what it is. Yesterday wasn't great. Trust me, I read the comments. It's all right. It's all right. This is actually not my mother's basement if, you think that, but it's okay. We've got 5 more best bets for today. Now, I do want to address Alabama A&M because, guys, this is just, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely, that's not, okay, I kind of forgot about that. Okay, anyways, this is ridiculous, okay? This loss was bad, all right? And you know why it was bad? We had plus 9.5 Alabama A&M. They lost by 10 points in triple overtime. Guys, you know how bad this was? Let's just, okay. So, first overtime happens, right? Alabama A&M, by the way, is up by 4 points with 32 seconds to go. Game ends up tied, obviously. We go to a second overtime. All right, by the way, game goes into a second overtime. I was watching the Rams game at the time. By the way, we cashed on the Rams plus money at home kind of in Arizona. But regardless, I had things to do last night, so I was like, you know what? All right, I'm going to step aside from, paying attention to Jackson State and Alabama A&M. I assumed we had it won. Second overtime. All right, with 10 seconds to go, Alabama A&M was up by 4 points. We end up in triple overtime. What happens? Alabama A&M gets outscored 13-3 in triple overtime, and we lose the bet. It's ridiculous. It's actually absolutely ridiculous. Today will be better. It's gotta be. Folks, if you haven't done yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. In about a couple hours, actually in an hour, we'll have our NBA predictions out here on the channel as well. Also, our UFC 311 predictions were posted this week. In the main event, Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan for the UFC Lightweight Championship. Co-main event, Merab Dvalishvili taking on Umar Nurmagomedov as well. Okay, on to the first of our 5 best bets for today. We're going to start off in the Big East. Big time basketball today. No more SWAC, even though I love the SWAC. We're going to stay away from that today. The SWAC definitely doesn't play on Tuesdays. But regardless, we've got some bigger time basketball games. We've got some, big conferences, and we're going to start off in the Big East. We go to Cincinnati, Ohio for the Villanova Wildcats and the Xavier Musketeers. Give me Villanova. Give me the road team here, all right? We are going to put all of our trust into Eric Dixon, who's by far the best player on the court today. This is the earliest game. This is the quickest we can get our get back from yesterday at 3:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. Give me Nova. All right, Villanova this season, 11-6. Eric Dixon averages 25 points a night. He puts up monstrous performances. This is a 4-2 team in the Big East this year. They've lost, both their losses are on the road, Creighton and St. John's, but Creighton and St. John's, I think, are better than Xavier. Obviously, St. John's is better than Xavier. Creighton, debatable. I would take the Creighton Blue Jays over the Xavier Musketeers. All right, Xavier, 2-4 in the Big East. Who have they beat? Seton Hall and DePaul. The 2 worst teams in the conference other than Butler. Okay, their losses, they're good teams. UConn, Marquette, Georgetown, St. John's. I get it. I'd also bonus pick today, not going to play it. Georgetown plus, I think, 10.5. I don't hate it, not going to play it though. But if you want the 6th one, that was probably next. Nah, it definitely wasn't next. Next up was probably New Mexico State minus 8.5 at San Jose State. But staying away from both of those today, even though I love the Lobos. The Lobos will definitely come into San Jose and win, but I can't confidently tell you that's one of the 5 best bets for today. I just can't. There's better value elsewhere. I think Villanova is better than Xavier. I really think so, guys. Xavier losses are Cincinnati, UConn, Marquette, Georgetown, St. John's. Oh, all those games literally just happened, right? I mean, their wins in the Big East are not good ones. They're against some bad squads. Non-conference, sure, they beat South Carolina. That's their best victory. They lost to Michigan and got blown out in that game. They beat Wake Forest. All right. The Musketeers are going to be led by Zach Freemantle, who's leading their team in scoring with 17.5 a night. They get Ryan Conwell as well, who's averaging 16. But again, for Nova, we get the best players on the court. We get Eric Dixon. We get Wooga as well, who's averaging 14.5. But again, if you're betting on Villanova, you are betting on Eric Dixon to have a huge night. And I expect that. 25 points a night. I feel like every time we bet against Villanova, I'm always watching out for Dixon. Hell, that happened the other night when we picked the UConn Huskies to beat them in that game. And of course, Alex Caravan can't make a free throw. But anyways, Eric Dixon leads them to victory with his 23 points. Again, it's almost a surefire thing that Eric Dixon's gonna score 20. So I think Nova's fine in this spot. I think they're the better basketball team. I understand the games being played in Cincinnati, Ohio, but again, Xavier, who have they beat this season? Sure, again, the South Carolina victory is pretty solid, but other than that, in the Big East, they beat Seton Hall and DePaul. Again, two of the worst teams in the conference other than the Butler Bulldogs. So I think we're okay here. When they play good teams, they lose. They hosted St. John's, lost the game by 10. They went to Georgetown, lost by 6. They did have a competitive game against Marquette, but ultimately they did lose. And I get it. Again, it was a 2-point game, but ultimately Xavier lost that one. So I like Villanova in this spot. I like the Wildcats on the road. Their only losses this season are in conference, Creighton and St. John's. I get it. Non-conference, they lost to Columbia, lost to Maryland, which, Maryland yesterday, we can blow out Ohio State, but we can't blow out Minnesota. It sucked. Regardless, I think Villanova's all right in the spot. And again, we get Nova at plus money. So all things considered, I like the value. Villanova plus 2.5 or 1.5? Plus 2.5. Plus 2.5 for Nova. We get plus money on the money line as well. I don't mind it at all. Early spot, Big East play. I think Xavier is going to struggle to score at points in this basketball game. And I like the Villanova Wildcats on the road to go to Cincinnati, Ohio and beat Xavier. Give me Nova. They're the better basketball team. They're going to go 5-2 in Big East play with a victory again on the road. Let's go to a big-time basketball game. The biggest one for today. It's on the SEC network. I guess Kentucky A&M gets the ESPN2 spot, but why isn't the best team in college basketball getting the national headline tonight? We go to Auburn, Alabama for the Mississippi State Bulldogs and the Auburn Tigers. Auburn has lost one game all year long, and it was a loss at Duke. This team's been pretty damn good ever since, right? At home, Auburn is a different team. I mean, they're a really good team wherever they play, but at home, nobody has played a competitive game with them yet. And I know they haven't played the best teams at home this season. We're talking about the Missouri Tigers where they beat 84-68. We're talking about, Kent State. They won 79-56. Those are really their only home games. They've played a lot of neutral sites this year, but they've won all those neutral sites. They are the best team in college basketball. They just are. They are the best team right now in college basketball. I mean, Johnny's averaging 18, 11, and 3, leading them in everything. Jonai Broom, I believe that's how they're pronouncing it. He's averaging 18, 11, and 3. You get Mazzara is averaging 13, Pettiford's averaging 11, Miles Kelly is averaging 10, Chaney Johnson's averaging 10 points. This is one of the best starting lineups in all of college basketball. No, it's the best starting lineup in college basketball. Mississippi State has to go on the road to play the best team in college basketball right now, and they're coming off a home loss to Kentucky. It was a game that they were falling behind in. They were down big time at one point in that one. Mississippi scratches and claws their way back, eventually takes the lead, but eventually Kentucky pulls away in the end. Mississippi State 2-1 in SEC play. Their other wins, South Carolina and Vanderbilt, but both very competitive basketball games. At home against the Gamecocks, only winning it by 5, going to Nashville to take on Vandy and only winning the game by 2. Again, Mississippi State, not a bad basketball team. We talked about it when they were playing Kentucky. Again, this team revolves around Josh Hubbard. Regardless of if Hubbard's having a good night or not, everything solely comes down to Josh Hubbard, in my opinion. Again, I was so impressed with Hubbard last year as a freshman from Mississippi State. And, I'd say he hasn't really taken the next leap. He hasn't taken a step, since that year last year, but he has been somewhat good. He's been good for Mississippi State. Who am I kidding? He's still their leading scorer, but again, he's still averaging 17 like he did last season, and you get games where, Josh Hubbard doesn't really shoot all that well from 3. Like his last 2 games, like the Vandy win and like the Kentucky victory, 9 points in the win over Vanderbilt and 15 points over 29 minutes against the Kentucky Wildcats. Josh Hubbard needs to put up better numbers. It's just that simple. Again, this guy is a lethal shooter when he is on, but when he's not on, again, It ends up hurting the team, obviously. He's 5'11", sure, he's a little bit undersized, but I mean, the man's shooting ability is very damn good. And, Mississippi State's going to need that if they're going to keep winning basketball games. Again, what he shot against Kentucky, not going to cut it. They ultimately needed more big shots out of Josh Hubbard, and they just didn't get those. Claudell Harris on the team averaging 11, Keyshawn Murphy averaging 10, Riley Kugel averaging 10 as well. But again, it is all up to Josh Hubbard. Let's just be honest with ourselves. But here's the thing, guys. Broome, he might not even have his best game, but there's other guys to make up for it on this Auburn team. That's how well built this Auburn Tigers team is. And again, yes, Broome is going to, he's going to put up numbers pretty much every single night. But out of the South Carolina game, it was Pettiford who is leading the Tigers in scoring. Again, this team's lost one game all year long, and it was at Duke. I don't expect them to not blow out Mississippi State. That was a really weird way of wording it, but I'd expect them again to put a beat down on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. 7.5 points, I'm fine with it. And you can look back, they went to South Carolina and only won by 3. Again, that's on the road. When this team plays at home, they blow teams out, and I get it. It's a small sample size against good teams. Really, the only half-decent team we can compare Auburn's home schedule to right now is Missouri. But hell, Mizzou's 2-1. An SEC player right now. Again, the one loss. It is obviously the Auburn Tigers. Mizzou has played 2 home games, but still beaten both LSU and Vanderbilt. We'll get to the LSU Tigers in a little bit as well later on in the video, but again, it shows that Auburn can beat these good teams. And again, when Mizzou came to Auburn, Alabama, they lose by 20 points. Again, are you taking Mississippi State in the game, or are you taking Mizzou? I'd personally probably take Mississippi State, but again, if Auburn's beating Mizzou by that much, they should be able to beat Mississippi State by that much as well. This game, honestly, is not a hit at all on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I think they're a good team. I know, again, they did not come out on the right end of that equation the other night when we picked them to beat the Kentucky Wildcats. Again, it didn't go our way. I thought because the game was in Mississippi, they'd get it. It didn't go our way. It's fine. I still think they're a good team. But again, I think this is the difference between a team like Auburn and honestly the rest of the SEC and honestly the rest of college basketball. Until I see a team that's better than Auburn, which is it Iowa State? Don't think so. Tennessee obviously has lost a game now. Florida's 15-1. I don't see a team right now that is even close to the Auburn Tigers. If the tournament started right now, I'd expect Auburn to dominate that damn thing. Again, a lot of college basketball left to be played. We're still in mid-January. But for now, again, Auburn's looking like that juggernaut out the Southeastern Conference. Give me the Auburn Tigers to win this basketball game, and they will cover the 7.5 points as well. Next up, we go on to some smaller school basketball, but trust me, we're going to get back to some bigger games in a second. We go to Nashville, Tennessee. We go with the Belmont Bruins and the Valpo Beacons. Give me Belmont here. Belmont's been playing good basketball recently, and I get it. They've won 3 really competitive basketball games. The UIC Flames victory was 92-87. The win over Southern Illinois was 90-86, and the win on the road at the Sycamores of Indiana State was 84-79. I get that. But they return home now to play Valpo, and they're a much better team than Valpo. All right, Valpo's coming off of a road loss at Murray State against the Racers, where they simply could not score. They put up 47 points in that basketball game and lost 58-47. They did look good early in Missouri Valley play, winning against UNI, Northern Iowa, beating the Sycamores of Indiana State. But again, both those games were at home. UNI is not a bad basketball team, beating Missouri State by 1 point in their second game in Missouri Valley play, losing obviously earlier to Bradley on the road. But hear me out again, Valpo is going to one of the best teams here in the Missouri Valley Conference, and they're on the road. I feel like Belmont should be able to cover the 6.5 points. I really think so. Valpo's much better than they were last season, obviously. Last year, this team was a damn mess. And this is why I came into this college basketball season thinking, all right, Valpo, easy money. How these two teams played in the Missouri Valley tournament last year, and Belmont beat them 86-61 in the first round. So again, Valpo was absolutely horrible last season. They were a 7-25 team. They went 3-17 in Missouri Valley play. So they've already exceeded that, record from last year, this year, obviously, in 2025. But I ultimately still don't think they are one of these top teams in the Missouri Valley Conference. Hell, again, I know it's a non-conference game. This team lost at DePaul this year by 19 points. You know how bad DePaul is this year. They lost to Ohio State and Columbus, who, again, not a bad loss losing at Ohio State, but it is bad to lose to this Buckeyes team, I think, by 22 points. I mean, I get it. They're Valpo. They are Valpo. Cooper Schwieger leads their team in points with 14.5, Tyler Schmidt with 12.5, and Jefferson De La Cruz Moniguero with 12.5 points as well. Al Wright averaging 11. But for the Belmont Bruins, I think they're going to be able to shut down this Valpo team. Similarly to what happened in Valpo's last game against Murray State, where they scored 40, I do think Belmont's able to outplay this basketball team and just rough them up and play physical defense and really limit the amount of scoring opportunities Valpo has this game. Belmont's led by Jonathan Pierre, who averages 14 and 7. That leads Belmont both in points and in rebounds. Carter Witt averages 13.5. Isaiah Walker averages 11.5. Tyler Lundblade averages 11 as well. I just think Belmont's the more physical team. Ultimately, I do think they are the better basketball team, and we get this game at home for Belmont. Yeah, everything points to the Bruins to win this basketball game. Again, one loss in the Missouri Valley so far this season, and that's a game on the road at Drake. Is what it is. Drake's a good basketball team. They went on the road, lost the game by 19 points. And that was a game where Belmont in their own right could only score 40. But since then, again, a loss to UNI on the road. It is what it is. It's what have you done recently? And they've been able to come out on top of 3 very close basketball games. But now they return home. I think we're all right in this spot. I really think we are. I think, again, coming off, especially off of Valpo's last performance, a team that doesn't play all that particularly well on the road. They just don't. And I know, okay, they had their big comeback this year over Western Michigan, but that's why WMU is banned. Just don't get me started on Valpo versus Western Michigan. That game was something. But it's a team that hasn't played all that well on the road this year. They went to Ohio State, lost the game by 22 points. Went to Murray State, put up 47 points and lost by 11. Did play a competitive basketball game at Bradley, but ultimately lost it in double overtime. Went to Missouri State, won a close game. It is what it is. I think Belmont's able to get them again with Valpo having to go on the road in this basketball game. I do think Belmont gets it. Give me the Bruins to win the basketball game outright, obviously, and we like them to cover the spread as well. -6.5 is the play for this one for the Belmont Bruins. Let's go on to our next game. We move to the Southeastern Conference for the Louisiana State Tigers and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Give me the home team here in Baton Rouge. We're going with Louisiana State. I think this is an interesting spot because you get 2 teams here that are winless in the SEC so far this season, 2 teams that came into SEC play with really good non-conference records. LSU only losing 2 games, Arkansas only losing 2 as well. We'll talk about the quality of losses. And yes, again, we will get to that in a second, but still 2 teams that came into SEC play, 11-2? They are now both 11-5. Okay, Arkansas's 3 games, a loss at Rocky Top by 24 points, home game against Ole Miss, loss, home game against Florida, loss, both of those by 7 and 8 points. For LSU, loss at home against Vandy, losses on the road to both Mizzou and to Ole Miss. It is what it is, okay? Now the non-conference losses, I get it. LSU's non-conference losses are Pitt and SMU, and Arkansas's non-conference losses are Baylor when they were ranked 8th, and Illinois, and you know how solid the Fighting Illini are this season. So I get it. Again, strength of schedule wise and taking everything into account, sure, Arkansas does on paper feel like the better basketball team, but we get this game at Baton Rouge, and I think LSU's got better scorers on this team. I think so. Well, I think Cam Carter's a really good scorer, and I think Jordan Sears is pretty solid as well. Carter's averaging 17 a night. Jordan Sears averaging 14 as well. I would expect those 2 guys to carry the load for LSU. They're still without Jalen Reed, their junior forward, who's averaging 11 points a game before going out. Last game he played was the Florida State game back on December 3rd, where he exited with an injury, but that's okay. I do think LSU, again, with Cam Carter and with Jordan Sears, I think these 2 guys are able to carry the load, obviously, scoring-wise for the Louisiana State Tigers. For Arkansas, they've got Adu Thiero, who's averaging 17, Boogie Flanders averaging 15, and DJ Wagner is averaging 10. But again, we get the game in Baton Rouge. I'm okay with this spot. I really am. We need Cam Carter to just go off, though. Because Cam Carter, he's been putting up solid numbers. Again, he will give you those solid, 16, 18-point nights. I feel like this is an NBA joke, but it's when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander always puts up, by the way, he's the best player in the NBA, but when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander always puts up his routine 31 points a night, and it's kind of a joke, Shai's always going to put up 31. Last year it was 28, now it's like 31 points where he's going to hit that every single night. That's Cam Carter with 16. I'm serious. Like, last couple games, Cam Carter's just been hovering around that 16-point mark. We're going to need that next step out of Cam Carter here in SEC play. We're going to need, Cam Carter to completely just go off and win a basketball game. But I am siding with the Tigers here. The game is being played in Baton Rouge. Again, I think that's going to play a major difference in this basketball game. I think these teams on paper are pretty even. I'll be honest with you. And you look at the strength of schedule and you look at the teams that they've played prior to this one. You can compare that all you want. And yes, Arkansas has played better teams in SEC play. Obviously, they've only played ranked teams so far in Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Florida. And I get that the Ole Miss and Florida games were competitive. But when they went to Rocky Top, and I don't know how we're really rating the Volunteers right now, but when they went to Knoxville, they got blown out by 24 points. Again, they were competitive against Ole Miss and Florida at home, but that was in Fayetteville. Now they got to go on the road to Baton Rouge. Don't really like their chances all that much. I'm going to take LSU. I think it's a great spot to get some plus money for a home team in the Southeastern Conference. It's the last game of the night tonight in the SEC, and we are siding with the LSU Tigers and Cam Carter to win this basketball game at home against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Let's go into our final game of the night, and we will head now to the Big Ten. I'm going with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, personally, I did debate if I was going to put this game up here. Again, I had some other spots I was thinking of playing instead, but I decided, yes, I am going to go with Iowa on the road against USC. Okay? I still don't think USC is that good. Okay? Yes, they went on the road and beat Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. That's a good victory. It is. I'm not going to try to slight that victory at all for USC. But at the same time, this is still the same USC team that lost at home and got blown out by Michigan. They went to Bloomington and, had a lead in the first half and just completely let it go away in the second half. It's the same team that lost and only put up 36 points against St. Mary's. They lost against Oregon. I love the Lobos, and again, New Mexico was able to beat them. I don't think one win over Illinois warrants USC to be favorites in this basketball game, because other than their win against Illinois, what impressive victory all year long does USC have? I'm serious. Washington doesn't count. Washington sucks. Okay, so they lost every other big time game they played. When they played the ACC, which is crazy to me, they played Cal at the ACC. They lost. When they played a Mountain West school, they lost to New Mexico. They play a West Coast team, they lose to St. Mary's. They play other Big Ten schools, and they're 2-3 in conference. We don't count UW. So against good Big Ten schools, they're 1-3. I get it. The game's at USC, but you know damn well there's no real, crazy crowd in attendance in Southern California. People at USC don't care about basketball. Just trust me, there's going to be nobody at this basketball game. And I get it, travel, yes, that will play somewhat of a factor for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I get that. But I still think Iowa's the better team. Guys, Iowa's coming into this game coming off back-to-back victories. I know they're both at home, but still, back-to-back home victories against Nebraska and Indiana. I do think they're a different team on the road, but at the same time, I really don't think they are. Again, we've seen Iowa, and again, this is the test here. We've seen Iowa go on the road twice this season, and they have lost both of those games. It's a 2-point loss at Michigan, and it's a 20-point loss, 30-point loss at Wisconsin. Okay, USC's not as good as either of those teams are. They're just not. And I think the Hawkeyes do have the better scorers. They've got Peyton Sanford, who's averaging 17. You get Owen Freeman, who's averaging 16.5. Josh Dix is averaging 15. Drew Thelwell is averaging 10 as well. Brock Harding's averaging 10 points. And I just still don't believe in this USC Trojans team. I don't think one victory on the road at Urbana-Champaign, I don't think that is going to change the trajectory of this season. I just don't think it's going to. Desmond Claude averaging 16 a night. And that's kind of it. Let's be honest. That's the only, that's really the only guy on this USC team you have to be worried about. I'd say maybe St. Thomas in the interior side of things, but other than that, I do think the Hawkeyes are the better basketball team. The only reason USC is favored to win this game is because the game is being played in Southern California. Again, there's not going to be that much of a crowd. That's just how USC games work. And as long as Iowa is able to deal with the travel, I think we should be fine. And it's not like we're betting on a slumping Iowa team going to Southern California. No, this is a team playing with confidence. This is a team that's been winning basketball games. They've only dropped one game in a month. And they're going to play back-to-back games here in Los Angeles. They're playing SC tonight, and they play UCLA on Friday. I think this is a motivated Iowa team. This is an Iowa team that should be playing with confidence going over to California, and I think they should be fine. So I'm going to take Iowa to go into their West Coast trip and pick up a huge victory. They're 3-2 in conference this year. They are 12-4 overall. And again, Sanford's been playing really good basketball, dropped 24 in the victory the other night for the Hawkeyes. at home against the Hoosiers, where they completely just dismantled Indiana and beat them by 25 points. I do like Iowa to go on the road here. We get them at plus money. We get what, plus 3.5 or plus 2.5 for the Hawkeyes here. We get plus 2.5, plus 115. I will take it. Give me the Iowa Hawkeyes to go on the road to USC, and they'll win the basketball game outright and obviously cover the 2.5 points as well. So, folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on Tuesday, January 14th. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to comment. If you do disagree with any of the picks, folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.